So it's no secret that Instagram has been dying as a photography platform. This is something that has been apparent for maybe the past few years already. And even if Instagram is not dead today, just think of what it's going to be like in 5 years. It really looks like the trajectory Instagram has taken is going to be more focused on videos and reels than photos themselves. Every month that goes by, it seems that Instagram gets worse. At least my reach and engagement gets a lot worse. My growth on Instagram has completely died, and I'm certainly not the only person this has happened to over the past few years. I'm not saying Instagram is impossible, but it's definitely not what it once was. Now, at the same time, I don't worry too much about this inevitably disappointing path that Instagram has chosen, because during this time, an alternative has emerged. And the name of that alternative starts with a T and ends with a twir. So it's twir. No, it's Twitter, of course. There was always a photography community on Twitter, but especially during the last year, it's got a lot more popular as a photography sharing platform. And I think ironically, even though Instagram was basically designed to be a photo sharing platform, whereas Twitter was not, it was more designed towards sharing short text snippets and stuff. For some reason, the interface or way to share photos on Twitter is actually somehow better than on Instagram. It's less limiting because on Twitter you can share horizontal photos in sets of 4 and the algorithm actually likes it, where on Instagram you are penalized by the algorithm. And there's no constraint on the portrait mode crop. On Instagram you're limited to 5x4. On Twitter you can post any aspect ratio that you want. Now, the main factor driving a lot of people to Twitter, a lot of photographers and artists to Twitter, is undoubtedly the emergence of the NFT market in the Q2 of 2021 in particular. That has continued until this day. And when you couple this with the decline of Instagram, again, I'm not the only one who's noticed the declining reach on Instagram, I'm sure. It has brought so many more photographers to Twitter, and it's caused this kind of cascading effect. I don't know if cascading is the right word, but it's caused this snowball effect of more and more photographers joining Twitter, and then more photography fans see that photographers are on Twitter, so they join Twitter and the audience grows. And as a result, the growth potential for Twitter has become so much better than for Instagram that it's not even really worth focusing on Instagram as a photographer nearly as much as it used to be. So definitely think if you haven't joined Twitter by now, you're missing out. I mean, let me show you when I've been posting pretty much the same stuff on Twitter and Instagram, but look at the follower growth and the reach on my Instagram versus my Twitter. It's like night and day. It's completely different. And again, if you think it's bad now, just think what it's going to be like in 5 years. I'm not saying that you should totally abandon your Instagram account. I haven't abandoned mine either, but it's pretty clear that Reels have been prioritized. So now on the Explore page, if you want to get more followers on Instagram, instead of only fighting against other photographers and photos, you're also fighting against the Reel platform, not only on the Explore page, but just the usability of Reels. I don't know about the official stats, but I would bet that Reels take so much of Instagram's, screen time nowadays compared to before they existed. Obviously, it's probably gonna be like 50-50 nowadays when you compare the amount of time people use Reels versus the amount of time they browse the traditional feed. So therefore, even if nothing changes in the algorithm, your engagement is going to go down if you don't do Reels. I'm not entirely opposed to Reels either, but just they're kind of lame. Sometimes I drop a Reel or two, and that seems to be the only way to really grow these days. I mean, you can still sort of grow if you're really good at photography and you really do the right things, but even that seems to have some sort of an artificial cap. When you reach a certain amount of followers, your engagement just inevitably goes down. I don't know exactly why that is. It's probably a combination of many things, and also account age is gonna play some part. Just as an example, a few years ago, when I had 10 to 20,000 less followers, I used to get way more overall likes per post. And I'm pretty sure it's not the quality of my content, because I've tried reposting the exact same photos and I've not really changed my style to that extent where that would be the reason. So there's clearly something else going on, which is quite discouraging, but also seems to happen to almost everyone. at some point. But regardless of the reasons, I think the conclusion is always the same. Instagram, if not isn't entirely dead yet, it is definitely dying, but we don't have to care because Twitter exists. Now I see some people saying they don't want to join Twitter because of politics, for example, but truth is you don't have to follow politicians, and just you can, you know, whenever you see a political tweet, you can just select don't show this kind of content anymore, and it's very easy to avoid it, so it's not really like it used to be. So if you purely want to do photography on Twitter, you can. Now another reason people may not like Twitter is because NFTs are so popular. That's more of a difficult thing to get around, because naturally when people have a chance to make a lot of money, that is going to be something that they're going to be interested in doing, especially if it's in a field that hasn't really allowed that in the past. Personally, I'm fully on the NFT train. I think it is the future of digital art, and because of the way that it allows people to make a living doing what they love, I really fully support it. And I also think the criticisms towards NFTs have been exaggerated. They're basically fake news if you actually look into it or know about the technology, but unfortunately some people have made it part of their personality to hate NFTs, so even if you try to debunk misconceptions and stuff, it doesn't really work. But even then, even if you don't even want to get into NFTs and you're not interested in them, just Twitter simply purely as a photography platform is still viable, and you don't even have to participate in any of the NFT stuff if you don't want to. And I think it just makes more sense to try to build a Twitter following as opposed to try to build an Instagram following if you're after a following in the first place. If you're not after a following in the first place, I'm not sure what to tell you. I mean, but even if you're not after building a following, just the usability of Twitter is better somehow than Instagram. I mean, because for example, if you want to share horizontal landscape orientation photos on Twitter, you can click the photo when you're using it on your phone, and you can turn the phone and you can see it in landscape mode. Whereas on Instagram, you can't do that. Also, the desktop application of Twitter, if you want to see photos in full resolution on a big screen, you can actually do that, and it looks better. So even then, it is simply a much more friendly way to browse photography. Not to mention, if you actually do like NFTs, if you do like building a community, Twitter is one of the best ways to also achieve that. But I think even aside from Twitter versus Instagram, the larger point or thing you should always keep in mind is to diversify your social media strategies if that is something that you're doing semi-professionally, because you never want to rely on just one platform for your traffic. Me personally, I have my Instagram, I have my YouTube, I have my Twitter, but I also have my own website and my own email list in case everything gets nuked, and just to have most control over, you know, people that want to keep in touch with me with the email list and website with zero restrictions. And I'm also on Tumblr, but that's kind of dead nowadays. And I'm always on the lookout for new platforms because that just makes sense. And I've just found building a following to be nothing but a benefit in this field. It's allowed me to meet so many people. It's allowed me to earn some income, and just simply being able to share my work with a large amount of people keeps me more accountable. And you know, it's if you take a good photo and people actually see it, that motivates you to shoot more, as opposed to if nobody ever sees it. So if you still haven't joined Twitter, I have a couple of videos on this channel teaching you how to get started with growing an audience on Twitter, and tips for, you know, posting in the right way and how the algorithm works in some ways. So you'll find the links to those in the description and probably somewhere in here. And if you're new to the channel, check out my other videos as well. I have a lot of photography vlogs and talking head videos sometimes and tutorials. Anyway, I hope you liked this one and learned something and it wasn't too clickbaity. See you next time.